I come to you at the turning of the tide on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. You know, it's a good thing I carry more than one water bottle before I kick these things off. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager for ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 64. So, hope you guys are having a really good week and everything. I'm recording this on Wednesday because Thursday's looking like it's going to be a little tight for me. And I'm going out with friends to see a concert tomorrow. We're going to go see The Who. HU, Mongolian style, not the British band. Really excited to see that. I've done links to The Who before down in the comments, usually when I'm talking about the need for war music. And so I'm really looking forward to that and really hoping to have a good time. So that all being said, we are, going here into this week. And the reason why I came in with such a melodramatic over-the-top intro is that I really think we've hit that point where I will call it and say we are transitioning right now. This doesn't mean that we're suddenly going to be in a buyer's market next week, but it does mean that things are definitely slowing down. We've had the conversation about rents and how rents are pretty much capped out. And the new big news we got going on right now is the interest rates. Now, there's another big news article that hit this week in the real estate world, but that's mostly for real estate agents. But the conversation we're having late last year about the need for buyer broker agreements and the lawsuit about commissions for real estate agents. The plaintiffs in these cases have included a new person, Gary Keller of Keller Williams, and has named him as a chief co-conspirator or something like that. So be interesting to see how that plays out. You can find more information on that if you look for it. But that sort of shook up the real estate side of the house. The other thing that's really, really shaking up the real estate side of the house is the interest rates, which we've known have been going up, but this week we hit 5.5. And figuring that we started at the beginning of this year, my number said 3.05, so 3 to 5.5. That's a 2.5 point jump right there. And we're seeing more articles that are starting to address this. Now, when we go to the numbers, you're definitely going to see how that is already starting to impact us right here. I'll go into a little bit of details on that. There's also an article I want to reference about that. And let's start with the numbers and we'll work it out from there. So, all right. Numbers for April 20, 2022. Actives this week are 5,227. We're up 223 from the week before. Our new listings are at 2,347, which is down a bit from 253 from that big spike we had last week. Our pendings, houses going under contract, are 1,832, which is down 69. Contracts that were accepted but are still looking for a backup offer are at 1,048, down 65, and buyers with contracts with a buyer's contingency are at 79. Our closing last week are 2,353, which is down 278, and coming soon is 1,155. And if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can see that our demand as of this morning was 104.4, and our supply is 24.9. The 104.4 is pretty much what would be considered normal demand in any other year. This is seriously dropping. I mean, just a few weeks ago, that was at 109, just when we started really seeing the rate spike and everything. And it's every time I look at that in the morning, it's down a little bit. So we are definitely transitioning. On the buyer side, we got the normal amount of buyers out there. We still have that 24.9 for supply. So once again, our price points are driven by the lack of supply right now. But I wanted to show you guys the charts, my graph that I use in the morning. This is my spreadsheet that I use, and I'm sure somewhere out there's some accountant looking at this who just is like completely freaking out because this is not a very professionally done Excel spreadsheet. But as you can see on here, from the it was the 23rd of March, that Wednesday, we started seeing an uptick. The lowest amount of listings we've had to date this year was March 17th, and we were at 4,332. We've been slowly moving up since. And I wanted to point out to you, not only have our listings been going up, and that is active listings you could put an offer on today, not ones looking for backup offers or anything. Those houses do not have a contract up. We've gone up almost 900. I mean, we're just about, what would you call that? Almost 20% up in inventory since this time last month. That's our normal seasonal change that we see in the March areas. What I want to draw your attention to is, even though we had this really big spike in listings and now we've dropped down off of that, our pendings, these are houses that are going into contract, they go from active to pending, have gone down almost in lockstep with inventory going up. And as our new listings, new houses coming on, are bouncing around. Now, we did have this serious little drop right here. That the 2,600 new listings last week was the peak new listings that we've seen all year, basically. So the listings are coming on, but houses aren't going under contract the way they used to. Our pendings are down just a little bit, but they're down. Pending offers that they're actively looking for a backup offer has been trending down. All right, we had these three little hiccups right here, and then we have that, and contracts looking for with a buyer contingency on them. They're still being accepted at roughly the same rate. We're always in the high 70s, very low 90s, all right, dancing around in the 80s. And the back on market, which I don't actually show, this is something I always keep an eye on myself, because when you see houses suddenly coming back on the market, that can be caused by various different things. But a big part of that is people who overbid on a contract, overbid on the house. And then the appraiser comes in and says, nah, dog, you ain't getting this one. Not at that price point. This is also offset a lot by people waiving the appraisal contingencies, which probably means a lot of people are having to dig deeper into their pockets when the appraisal doesn't hit. And I've been hearing some horror stories about appraisals lately this week. But, let's keep an eye on all this stuff. And coming soon's generally running right about 1,000 to 1,200, right around in there. This is not all coming soons go to active. Remember, some coming soons magically just wind up being pending, 15 minutes later. They might brush active for 30 seconds and all of a sudden they wind up pending again. But, it's still a good example of what might be coming out on the market. So, but the article I wanted to talk to you guys about is this one right here. And this was cut and pasted to me by one of my lenders. And it's going through and once again, they always throw the word bubble in there to get your attention and everything like that. But the big number I wanted you to take away from this one is this last paragraph. Back in December, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate stood at 3.11. The borrower taking on a $500,000 mortgage at that rate would owe $2,138 per month. Now that the average rate is at 5, that loan if issued today would be $2,684. So just about $450 more a month. Over the course of a 30-year loan, that's an additional $196,000. That is what that change does for you. If you are sitting there, and a lot of my buyers do this, right? Because I encourage buyers not to max out. I love lenders. Lenders are great people, or at least the ones that I work with are great people. But you also understand that sometimes the lenders are going to tell you your max amount, right? You can buy $500,000 worth of house. That's what you're qualified to borrow. And if you were sitting there thinking at your $500,000, you're going to be paying $2,138 today, you're not. Most of my buyers eventually come down and say, this is how much I want to pay. And if they said, I only want to pay $22,000 or $2,200 monthly mortgage payment, right? And now it's going to be $2,684, they're no longer looking at $500,000 price point. See how that works? So this is this is the new impact that we're seeing. Now, we're also seeing less applications for new loans be put in. That means less people are interested in even starting the buying process. And this is going to start transitioning up. Now, but remember, this whole thing that we're doing in this run-up is still all about the supply. We have the normal amount of buyers that we expect to be out there day to day, year to year. All right, we're at 104, 100's average. It's a band between 90 and 110. But as you're going to actually need to see demand drop under 90 to start seeing a serious spike in supply come up. All right, that's usually what happens to normal supply is normal, or normal demand is normal demand. All right, if supply is low, and as soon as they're getting fed in, they're getting pulled off. All right, that doesn't give that supply time to build up. Tina always uses an example. Think of it as water in the bathtub. The water coming into the bathtub is normal, but supply. The water coming into it is incredibly low and trickling. The drain is the same size as normal. Right? You're not seeing that demand build up, so or the supply build up. So that is where we're at. But the reason why I want to call this turning of the tide is the term is technically, it's the ebb tide. All right, if anybody's been around the ocean a lot and really been there enough times to realize you want to be out there at low tide, or you're out there at high tide, you understand the water will come in, right, and then the water goes out, and there's this ebb tide where it just sort of dwells halfway, and it seems like it's not going either one direction or the other. It's pretty much where we're at right now. We've hit ebb tide, and we can start seeing that transition back. Not in the next couple months. Things are going to be slow. We don't do a big super surge unless we have a sudden COVID lockdown, and I don't see anything out there on the radar saying we're going to have one of those things again. That was our last time we had a real serious inventory spike, and I can show you that right now because that was literally the reason why I started my original chart here back in the day, was just because of March 16th. All right, this was in 2020. We had 10,933. Wouldn't it be nice to have 10,000 listings on the MLS? I mean, seriously. We did not realize how good we had. In fact, back then, we were still complaining because we only had half the inventory we should be having. Right? But you can see, all right, as the St. Patrick's Day Massacre COVID lockdown started, all right, you can see inventory start going up, and it kept trending up, right? Even though you have a couple down dates, you still see it trend up, and it peaked out at 14,643, right? In the course of 1 month, right? Because I was tracking this thing every day. I think I missed a day or two, and I'd mark it out like that day I missed, right? But in the course of 1 month, we went from 10,933 to 14,643. Right? That is a huge jump. That is pretty much, let's see, almost a 40% jump. Yeah. Trying to do percentages off the top of my head. Yeah, that's like a 40% jump, and it sat there in the 14s for quite some time, right? Until it started working its way down. So that was almost a combination of having the normal seasonality with COVID craziness on top, really spiking that up, and it slowly drained out. Here we go into May, and you can see it started dropping like a rock again. All right, all through April, bounce. May kicks in, May 20th, and all of a sudden the inventory started disappearing again. All right, to where we hit our bottom this time last year in 2021 of 3,938. That was March 24th, and then you see it start trending back up. So once again, here's our seasonality trend. Here comes the inventory and everything like that. Are we going to have less demand this time around so the inventory sticks? I'm really thinking we will, because remember, part of this issue that was going on back then, all right, is we had interest rates constantly being pushed down lower and lower and lower to try to save the economy. Well, this is the hangover from the party, guys. So, anyways, economics and everything aside, this is I'm just going to wrap this thing up. Not a lot to talk about, and if you're bored with nothing else to do because now you realize you have another 30 minutes of your life back, my favorite historian of all time, Dan Carlin, is on the podcast of one of my favorite speakers, Mike Rowe. So it's like the best of both worlds. I will include that link into the show notes below. If you don't know who these two people are, stop what you're doing. Watch or listen to the podcast. All right, and have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves out there. I think the temperature is supposed to drop, so we're not going to be too hot. Oh, one last thing. All right, we're going into the summer seasons. People are starting to get their pool cleaned out. Water temperature starting to get to the point where you can play in the pool. Watch your children and pets around swimming pools. Make sure that you have a security gate up. Make sure that your automatic closing doors are still automatically closing the way they should. I don't want to hear any more morning drive time news about the latest child who fell in a swimming pool. All right, so let's take care of that. All right, take care of each other. Work your circles, and you guys have a great weekend. All right? See you.